Hi, it's John Harris here in the Salon of Morgan's Cloud on McCurdian Roads 56. I'm back by the engine room corridor again, looking forward. I've closed the door to the forward cabin, mainly because I dumped a whole bunch of stuff in there. We're in layup mode at the moment, and in fact, you can see that the mast is gone. We've already pulled that. As I come forward, you can see, there's a handle here, handle there. Handle, you can then grab this bar here. These are tie bars that are part of the massive structure holding the rig loads, and they tie into the floor frames, and then that all ties together with huge aluminum ring frames which are up there and go all the way down, go right around the boat, and then tie into immense aluminum knees. I'll just show you that here. They're covered up with some cladding, but you can get some rough idea of how big these knees are. That's what's taking the cap shroud loads, and then this one forward and aft for the lower shroud loads. We added this cabinet here some years ago. I think I mentioned we're kind of foodies, and it has a couple of functions. But the main one holds all of our spices. I told you we're both noise sensitive, so you'll notice these rubber strips make sure that they don't clink. And the other side holds up to 3 Apple laptops. Laptops go here, keyboard here. So that's where we put our office computers when we're not working, because she's always been our office as well as our home. We built our business right here. The cabinet can be removed easily. It's on these brackets. There's no holes. There's also a added leaf that will go on this side of the table if you want to have a cast of thousands for dinner. Without the leaf, we seat 6 comfortably and 8 where somebody has a cheek off the edge there. Don't ask about the bobble-headed dogs. It's a long story. There are 2 more hatches in the main salon. I'll tell you more about those in the aft when we get to the aft cabin. And that brings me to ventilation. That's one of the wonderful things about the boat, is how well ventilated she is. She's one of the few boats you'll ever find with proper derades today. That's in the deck video. I talk about more of the construction in the aft cabin, but one thing I'll cover here is these frames here, and they have covers that go over them. Here's one with the cover attached. I'll just come over here, right over that bezel, and the result is you're double glazed, and they don't have condensation, which then drips on your head. Solves the problem. So all part of being a boat that's both cold weather capable and warm weather capable. Let's see, how many ports do we have in here? 1, 2, 3, 4. One over the galley, and they're all opening. And by the way, a good thing about opening ports, it's amazing how much cooler it makes the boat compared to hatches, particularly if you're alongside or something, because it gives you a cross draft, which hatches don't. So the combination, it really makes a big difference. And then, of course, we've got fans all over the place. This is a fun feature. Table goes up and down so that you can have it at normal height for dining, and then you can move it down to the proper ergonomic height to have a laptop computer on it. So if I want to move it down, I can do that, and you can hear it behind me. This part of the table has moved down. You can move it down quite a ways. And if you're going to do a lot of office work or video editing or anything like that, if you type on something that's too high, you get a really stiff neck and your shoulders lock up, and it's generally horrible. So no boat tour is complete without a look in the bilge. The nice thing about this boat is that's easy to do. You can see all the hatches, so you can get to every part of the bilge. You can also store huge amounts. So let's go to this hatch here and just take a look, gander down there. This is the mid-bilge cofferdam. And you can see I'm storing a bunch of oil and other engine room fluids in there. But that cofferdam separates the water tanks, which are forward, from the fuel tanks, which are aft, which is a good idea. You don't want them sharing a bulkhead for obvious reasons. And you can see, I just go down in here, you can see how deep this is. I mean, you can put a ton of oil, etc. And you can get some more in under the settee the other side. So this is the manifold for the water tanks. A boat's plumbed with CPVC, which is the high temperature, high strength schedule 80 thicker walled PVC pipe. And it's just a really smart way to plumb a boat. It's much more substantive than and robust than the stuff you typically see, the thin plastic stuff, or worse still, hose, which is awful. That's the water tank fill here, and they're actually filled below, which makes a lot of sense. It's just, and there's no way also to get confused and put diesel in the water tank, which I've heard people doing. Oh, thank God I've never done it myself. There are two water tanks, one at port and starboard, and they hold 250 gallons between them. And then there are two fuel tanks, and this is right in the keel stub, fuel tanks there, and they hold 290 gallons, which is one of the incredible things about this boat. She's a great sailboat, won a class twice in the Bermuda race, and yet she's a good motorboat with a range in excess of 1,500 miles, in case, depending on how you calculate it. In other words, we can steam all the way to Bermuda and back without refueling, and still have fuel left. The builder just did an incredible job. These are custom-made inspection ports. Each tank has 3, so you can get the whole tank to clean it, and you can get them off in minutes. In fact, I take the water tank ones off every year as part of winterizing, vacuum the water out rather than put a lot of pink stuff in there, which makes the water taste foul. Yeah. That's the fuel fill you're looking at there, and that's a clever little idea. That plug there, I've never had to do it, but you can take that plug out and then you can get a dipstick in there if the tank tender fails. And that's the plumbing for the vents. And of course, these tanks are integral, being an aluminum boat. And the great thing is that you can take these hatches off, these to undo all those nuts, and they pressure down with the nuts on an O-ring, a huge O-ring that's set in a groove in the tank top. And so there's just no way they can leak or even any vapor come out. These are the returns and pickups for the fuel system, engine and generator, and the fuel polish system, which I'll talk about when I get in the engine room. One of the big problems you'll find when you have aluminum tanks, either on an aluminum boat or a boat that has aluminum tanks, is where do you get aluminum fittings? And nobody in the marine business has them. So what people do is they either use stainless steel, which is a really bad idea. So then they put plastic inserts in to try and isolate them and blah, 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 blah. These are aircraft fittings. I got them from a company called Aircraft Spruce in Texas after a hell of a search. They're what's used in aircraft aluminum tanks where everything's got to be perfect because you get it wrong, you fall out of the sky. And the pickups are aluminum tube that I got from the same source. Before we leave the Salon, just a word on storage. Underneath all of the dinette and the sea berth, the other side, which we'll show you in a minute, there are these huge lockers. One of the advantages of having the tankage in the bilge, I think that gives you an idea of what we're talking about. And you go all the way around the Salon, it's like that underneath all of them. And then there are further lockers behind the backs, and then these up here. And we frequently carry 6 months supply, and all we have to do is buy fresh food. And of course we have the big freezer, so we don't have to buy that much of that. And so it means when other cruisers are running around sourcing stuff without a car, which is always a pain, we're going off hiking or doing something fun. Phyllis and I have always slept in the Salon when double-handed. If we've got crew, we might sleep aft, but we like to be, within earshot of the person on watch. And some years ago, I re-engineered this bunk, and I'll just show you some cool things about it. Right now, with the back down, you could just pull up the lead cloth. You can see some pictures of it. If it's rolly, we would have it like this. And then if it's fairly calm at sea, which is most of the time in this boat, and you want a little bit more room. You don't want to be stifled between the leak cloth and the back. You flip the back up and bolt it, and you have a wide area. So I've just removed the back cushions, and I'll just stop a minute and open up these locks. And behind that lifting back, really bolted storage for our 120 pounds fisherman style anchor from Paul E. Luke. And we used to use it all the time until we had our spade whenever we got up in the north. We have not had to use it since then, but we do keep it aboard because if the kelp is really, really, really thick, and I'm talking, 10 feet of kelp on the bottom, as you'll sometimes get in an Arctic anchorage, this is the anchor you need. And that's half of the vane gear and a couple of vane gear blades that are lashed to it too. The nice thing is you can take the vane gear off. The rest of it's up in the forepeak. When you're coastal cruising, vane gears are so fragile that it's better to just take them off, but most boats don't have the storage. Talking about massive ring frames, you can just see what we're bolted to here. That's part of what's taking the rig loads. And there's another one over here that we're bolted to that's harder to see it. Also, you can see that, as I was saying on the other side, these are all lockers, and they're as deep as the bunk is. Barrel bolts on the top of them in case the boat was knocked down, heaven forbid, so that everything doesn't come flying out at you.